Okay, I'm ready.
Me too. So let's see if we have no one. So we can just
me and Andrea did well. We had no viewers for the entire hour.
seriously. Oh my goodness. Which level did you
We were
do?
just like, it was a 4 to 5.
Right.
So we were just coming in for the last like 2 minutes.
My goodness.
But yeah, it was
we have one person.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my name is Neve and I'm from Manchester. I usually work in the Firenze Alberti school, but now I'm in Florence. And you, Anna?
I'm Anna. I'm from Essex in England, and I also usually work in Firenze Alberti with you.
Where are you from originally? You said from Essex. I'll just add this here now. Okay, so today's masterclass is about deeds, not words, which is the slogan used for the suffragette movement. And the suffragette movement is one that was a group of women who were political. We have Padua. Oh, hi, Jenny. Yeah. Nice to meet you. And the suffragette movement were a group of women who led the political movement for equal rights for women in England. And the founder of the suffragettes was from Manchester. And yeah, she had the same, she's from the same area I was brought up in.
Wow, that's cool.
I know. What do you think of when you think of the suffragettes?
Votes for women and also Mary Poppins, because
yes,
Mum is a suffragette.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are two really famous suffragettes, Emmeline Pankhurst, who was the woman who was born in Manchester in West Side, and she led the campaign with her family, with her sisters, and her mum was involved. And the second woman, who was probably the most famous, was Emily Davis. And Emily Davis is famous because she died, maybe killed herself at the races. Did you know about that, Emma?
Yeah, I remember learning about this in history at school, so a while ago.
Yeah. There was a race in which the king and his horse were participating in, and she stepped out in front of the horse to to attach the suffragettes banner. And in the whole process, she died a few days in hospital. And there's a continuing debate and discussion of whether she intended to become a martyr or she accidentally killed herself. And there's much evidence for and against. So, yeah, I personally do not think she intended to kill herself. I think she wanted to see it through to the end.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Anna, please read.
Yes. Okay. Deeds, not words. In this activity, vocabulary related to activism, discussing political movements and campaigns.
Good. So what do you think of when you think of activism? A question for everyone. Could audio be improved? Is it? I try to. Oh, I hope this is okay. So for everyone,
yeah, I don't know.
What do you think of? Sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to see. So what do you think of when you think of activism? Is there something specific, perhaps a particular political movement or something more general? What do you think of, Anna?
I think of protests. I think of people spreading their thoughts and opinions. I think of people being active in a community where they're passionate about a certain situation or a certain event.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would say passion
I think,
probably is a word.
yeah. Yes, I think activism for me is when people take power into their own hands and try and sometimes fight against the state, fight for their own rights. But I think there is the calm movement, and there is the militant movement, which is the way in which the suffragettes tried to operate. Initially, I know Emily Pankhurst and her mom always wanted to be peaceful. They never wanted to be radicalized. But Emily Davidson, she was totally radicalized. She did things like hunger strikes. She smashed windows through London High Street. They placed bombs in letterboxes. They were very, very powerful women. And yeah, this is why every woman should vote. Okay, so
I agree.
stirring words. Read these quotes from suffragette Emmeline Pankhurst. Trust in God, she will provide. Deeds, not words. I'd rather be a rebel than a slave. 1. What effect does each of these quotes have? Do you think Emmeline Pankhurst was being completely serious? So this is the original suffragette, Emmeline Pankhurst, and I think she died of natural causes after the whole movement. So first of all, a quote is direct speech, which has not been paraphrased. So Anna, trust in God, she will provide. Jenny. And moving that choose to push an idea or a right with the aim to farming, but that's a fantastic explanation. So good, so good. And Jenny, what do you think of these quotes? Sorry, Anna.
Trust in God, she will provide. Trying to harness a bit more powerful king, saying that God is a woman rather than a man, to give women more power.
Yeah,
quite feminist. It's like maybe 20th century feminism.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's good. It's probably quite. These quotes are probably quite shocking, especially the first one from a woman in this time period. Men, shocking.
Yeah,
it probably made people feel quite uncomfortable, I would imagine.
Could you repeat the question? Jenny, the questions 1 and 2. How do you interpret these quotes from Emmeline Pankhurst? I think in this period, women were considered second-class citizens. And so every institution was built around a hierarchy of men being superior to women. And women were considered the homemakers. And so there was the assumption that every figure of power was male. And so it's, again, let's trust in a God that perhaps is a woman.
Yeah.
And I think Emmeline Pankhurst was being completely serious with this quote. You should have total faith in the institution you're fighting for. She's fighting for the position of power for women.
Yeah.
And deeds, not words. So deeds. Deeds is an action. What do you think that, maybe I can add a banner to say this. What do you think about this, Anna?
Deeds, not words. I would imagine this is saying that actions words. So imagine that doing something about women not having the vote, I guess, is better than just talking about it. Kind of making it happen rather than just saying you're going to do it and then actually not doing it. Actually doing it and like having the power, the willpower, and the.
Yeah. The actual suffragettes, they became a political party before they were, I think they were given an active role within government. So there was a creed created to, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it gave them the ability to form a political party, but not to actually participate. So I think what Emmeline Pankhurst says is like, we need to see that we're actively involved. Our opinions are actively being taken on board. Taken on board, a phrase?
Yeah.
To take on board. To listen and act on the words. Okay. And I'd rather be a rebel than a slave. What do you think about that, Anna?
I think she'd rather live her life the way she wants to live it and be, rather than do she's told by the men that she does. So I would say she's sticking it to the man.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also she's comparing the status of a woman to that of the slaves in her time period. And actually, before women were given the right to vote in the UK, black men were given the right to vote significantly before then. So I think with her comparing the two, she's saying, yeah, it happened after, in the early 19th century. So yeah, I think she was comparing the status of a woman to how they treated those of slaves, and she'd rather obviously not to be in that position. And yeah, Johnny, I agree with the quote. It's not a word. It's something that we have to. Yeah, it's true. It's definitely a slogan which I think you can apply to so many different situations, big, small, national, international. You have also to help God if you wish to receive a positive answer. Yeah, absolutely. An investment in both ways. I think you might be right. Exactly. I think Emmeline Pankhurst, in my opinion, was serious in absolutely in everything she did. She completely devoted her life to this movement. And her whole family, her sisters too. Yeah. I think one of her sisters actually was one of the suffragettes who spent the most amount of time in prison, was force-fed many times because is that your sound or mine? Is it?
I think that's mine.
I know, maybe it's. Oh, don't worry, because I think there was the status of, if you were imprisoned as a political criminal, if you were ill or sick, you had to be released from prison. So many of the suffragettes decided to hunger strike, to go without food. And this way they would be freed from prison and could continue the campaign. And in the end, the police and the government ordered the women to be force-fed. They had to put a tube in their throat and just fed through the tubes in order to save their health, ironically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that the suffragettes still have a significant... Anna and I are both British. Do you think they still play an important part in society today?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think most women, um, most women our age and older tend to vote simply because it wasn't a privilege for us. So I think it's really important. Created more freedom for women. So I definitely think it's a big kind of cultural society in England still, I would imagine.
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
I agree. It's the lasting legacy. Women should vote. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Okay. How do I take off this banner? Okay, Anna, if you can read.
Okay. Suffragettes forever. Watch the video. What do the following words mean? Confrontational, militant, public outcry, political offender, hunger strike, central thrust, central thrust of the movement, futile.
Okay, so we could maybe just discuss this vocabulary since it's difficult to share the video also, but definitely some vocabulary. And considering in this period, there's lots of movements. You have the school, how does she call it, Greta Thunberg? The school strike. So it's all these this type of vocabulary. Yeah, the school strike by Greta Thunberg, the environmental. There's still human rights movements all across the world. So confrontational is actually a false friend to confront in Italian. So Anna, how do you define the word confrontational?
Confrontational, I would say, is used. It's, for me, it's a personality trait, I think. And if someone is confrontational, then they're quite forward with their questions. Sometimes they can be quite aggressive. It can make you feel a little bit uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah. Aggressive. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Someone who enjoys, I was going to say who enjoys to confront, which, someone who is very confront. I can't think of a word without using to confront. Yeah, someone who's very forward, aggressive.
Maybe someone who likes to stir the pot a little bit, potentially.
Can
cause
be,
a bit of
forcing people to face an issue, to discuss the issue very much on the table. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And so definitely the suffragettes were considered confrontational. They would chain themselves with handcuffs to Downing Street, to the Houses of Parliament. So they would confront the politicians, the police, and literally force them to see the entire campaign and the protests. Hostile. Can be hostile. Yeah, it can be. But for me, hostile is very negative, and perhaps someone who maybe doesn't even want to interact with you. When they are hostile, sometimes they just will not talk to you. Confrontational is extremely forward and very facing a problem, forcing someone to face a problem. But yeah, it's definitely within the same, I don't know, word group. And what about?
I would. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. It was.
And militant. I think this is definitely a word you can apply to the suffragettes, depending on which suffragette you talk about. Militant are people who favour violence or maybe not violent, but aggressive forms of protesting. So again, it completely depends on the suffragette in question. What do you think, Anna?
Yeah, I think militant is a more physical form of protesting or being. So like Emily Davidson was more militant, and then I think Emmeline Pankhurst was more more mentally
Peaceful.
kind of more like peaceful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think initially the intention of the suffragette movement was a member of a party. The intention was to just enter politics and create a party for women. And the term suffragettes, their initial party was not called the suffragettes. It was something like a women's party, and the suffragettes was a phrase given to this group by the press, by the media, and they decided to adapt this phrase and to change all connotations from negative to positive. Well, they embraced it anyway. The public outcry, Anna.
Public outcry. I was kind of upset or shocked, horrified by the current news situation.
Yeah, and outcry
when the general public
is like a dramatic cry, a dramatic emotional response.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can even a strong public disapproval. Yeah, exactly. I suppose in many ways the world is experiencing an outcry. Maybe it's against how their government has responded to it. Maybe it's against how other members of the public are responding to the different parameters we have. Yeah. And a political offender, definitely. I think most of the suffragettes offended in some ways after they became radicalized. Certainly their protests became a lot more radicalized, yeah. They smashed windows. I know that they were able to create like petrol bombs because they used to put them in the post boxes in different areas of London near to political figures, and they also threw a bomb, I think, inside. I don't think it was a member of Parliament, but some important male. They bombed his house.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't know about the bombs. We didn't learn about that at school. Wow.
Yeah, I know. And they smashed up a load of the high street windows as well. Yeah, they became crazy, but all for a cause.
Yeah, that's bad.
And
yes,
a hunger strike. I think this is one of the maybe more well-known types of methods of campaigning for the suffragettes specifically.
Yeah, I would agree.
Would you say?
I would agree for sure. The hunger strike, I think, is probably one of the things I associate with the suffragette movement most of all.
Yeah, and many of them had, exactly, Johnny, when you don't eat to protest, exactly. And I think many of them had lasting health issues as a result of the force feeding and the hunger strikes. They really suffered for a cause, yeah. And then the central thrust of movement. A thrust, like a forced movement, would you say, Anna?
Central thrust of the movement. So the movement is the political party. So in this case, I assume votes for women, the suffragettes. But yeah, thrust, a forced action for sure. Yeah. So
yeah, I think the actual core of the suffragettes women was such a strong team, and they really saw it through to the end. The Pankhurst family particularly, but then after the end of this movement, they all moved to different parts of the world. I think one ended her days in Africa, Charlotte.
Wow.
I could be wrong.
Because I believe, I might be wrong, but also the women helping in the Second World War helped them to finally get the vote.
I think the campaign was put on hold. On hold is to temporarily stop during the war. So perhaps the women during the war did try and reactivate the campaign after it.
Yeah.
And futile is a word I definitely wouldn't describe the suffragette movement as. Incapable of producing any useful results, any useful consequences. And it was a word that was associated with them, but I don't think it can be used now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. We can move forward. Okay, Anna.
Okay. Stirring words. Listen to Emmeline Pankhurst's speech from 1913. 1. How does she use the following? Imagery, repetition, build-up, rhetoric, slogan. 2. What does she do in the final sentence of her speech?
Okay, so I have the speech here. I can read and then we can discuss. You have 2 babies, very hungry and wanting to be fed. To feed. I'm just going to add that. One baby is a patience baby and waits indefinitely until its mother is ready to feed it. The other baby is an impatient baby and cries lustily, screams and kicks, and makes everybody unpleasant until it is fed. Well, we know perfectly well which baby is attended to first. That is the whole history of politics. You have to make more noise than anybody else. You have to make yourself more obtrusive than anybody else. You have to fill all the papers more than anybody else. In fact, you have to be there all the time and see they do not snow you under. We were no longer to be ignored by the politicians. Human life for us is sacred, but we say if any life is to be sacred, it shall be ours. We won't do it ourselves, but we will do it with the enemy in the position where they will have to choose between giving us freedom or giving us death. Okay, so that was a speech made by Emmeline Pankhurst in 1913. So to feed is to give food to others. So Anna, how do you think she shows imagery?
I think the imagery is quite strong here with comparing the 2 babies. Her language is quite descriptive, so I feel like you can kind of imagine the images in your head of like a patient baby and then that she said about see them in your head. So I feel like to describe her feelings and her ambition, I guess.
Yeah, I think she provides a useful analogy for people. Certainly, a lot of men in Britain, a lot of men within politics have babies, and she uses the imagery that people can relate to. Indeed, when you do have 2 children, you do attend to the loudest one, and it's true. It's as she says. You see this throughout history. If you don't make a fuss, if you don't make a scene, you're not heard. What's the phrase, Anna? Is it like bad pub? No, bad publicity is still good publicity, something like that.
I think it's yeah, I think it's like any publicity is good publicity. Something,
Yeah, it's better
something
to
along
be
those
spoken
lines.
about
I
badly.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so what's the next? Repetition. She always uses the phrase, you have to make more noise, you have to be more obtrusive, you have to fill the papers, you have to be there all the time. This constant repetition, she's very adamant of asserting her power and justifying her presence within the campaign.
Yeah.
And what's the next one? And again, they're constantly reiterating the words that they use in the slogans too. In fact, in the picture, you can see they say not words. What does it say? Thick and thin we begin. The bill, the whole bill, nothing but the bill. Again, lots of repetition. The bill is the what I think they were fighting for, the change in the bill where women were recognised as equal citizens. Oh, that's something you would kind of see in Mary Poppins, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It's really sweet. It's very similar.
Shall I read again the last sentence of the speech, and then maybe we can discuss that?
Yeah.
She says, human life for us is sacred, but we say if any life is to be sacred, it shall be ours. We won't do it ourselves, but we will put the enemy in the position where they will have to choose between giving us freedom or giving us death. So what do you think about that, Anna? What's she trying to do?
I think she's basically saying that they'll, fight till the bitter end because they deserve it. She's saying that they're going to put up a good fight until the death, basically.
Yeah. She's. I think she's also maybe asking them to. She's reiterating how sacred life is for everyone, but it's in their hands whether the suffragettes will survive or die, because they will die for this campaign. She's put the whole value of life into a perspective and said it's your choice. You can choose for us to be free or for us to die. It's crazy. Yeah, I think the suffragettes are like some of the most inspirational women of all time. Well, no, there are many.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think within British history,
definitely. Yeah, for sure. It's incredible.
Exactly. And many of them did die. I think so many of them died in hospital, and they were handled really aggressively by the police. Okay, Anna.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think? 1, can the big issues of the world be solved simply by talking and compromising? 2, time when deeds, not words, is the answer. Why did Emily Davidson do what she did? Do you think it was stupid or brave? A rousing speech to your fellow workers, inciting them to go on strike until your wages are increased.
Okay. So maybe we can talk about the first one, and then in the second one we can talk more about Emily Davidson.
Okay.
I think now we have social media and a bigger platform, and the rest of the world can see into other subcultures. There's more of a possibility to resolve issues through talking and compromising, because there's many influences and people are able to be involved. But I think there was a time when one of the only ways for people to listen and for change to happen was through these militant methods.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, nowadays I think talking and compromising is better than kind of violent protesting, but I guess it depends on the people that are kind of arguing, because some people are obviously more militant than others. But I definitely think compromising is a good way forward, for sure.
Yeah, I think also freedom of speech is something that is exercised more regularly now in parts of the world, and in that case, you are able to say things. I know that for the different movements I could think of, originally when you did speak out, you would face a huge backlash, which is like a consequence of your actions, a negative consequence for simply saying the things against the government, against the state. And I think now we have more laws to protect ourselves from a situation like that. But yeah,
I agree.
I think also we have more ways in which we can cause havoc and unrest and cause problems. Like, we have social media now, so you can lead campaigns, you can boycott industries. I don't think there was an option like that, especially when women didn't have the right to, they didn't have money to do things. They weren't able to boycott institutions. They weren't able to pay for big campaigns. They weren't able to have any figures of power with them, moving with them, because it just simply wasn't an option.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Emily Davidson, do you want to talk about what Emily Davidson did?
Okay. I believe Emily Davidson wanted to hang a banner at the national races, but to do so involved her crossing the racetrack where the horses were running, and she got trapped by, I think it was the King's horse, and she died in hospital, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it was stupid. I think it was, but I think maybe, yes, I think it's brave, but I think it could have been slightly more considered. Just because it was a shame that, she died. That's pretty sad.
Yeah. There's a really good documentary about it by Claire Baldwin. If anyone wants to watch it, it is on YouTube. And it talks about Johnny, this is interesting. Talking and comparison are the best way to solve big issues. Strong actions can create dangerous consequences. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're definitely right. It should always be a last resort. Yeah. But when you look back through these events and movements in history, there's always these huge political offences made and political war crimes. It's interesting to think about whether it was completely necessary or maybe the only option. I think Emily Davidson really took pride in being a leader of the suffragette movement. So I really don't think what she did was with the intention to kill himself or was stupid, but she definitely didn't consider it, because I really don't think she would have wanted to become a martyr that day. I think she really just wanted to attach her flag to the king's horse, and consequently died.
Yeah.
Like Anna said, she was trampled over and, risked a lot of injuries to other people, and the poor horse. I think the poor horse was injured in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
There's I know, and there's a big discussion because in her pocket they found a one-way train ticket to the event. There wasn't a return, but in that time you only bought one-ways. She also had a holiday booked to visit her sister in France. But then there's this argument that she was such an intelligent woman. How could she not have known that this would have killed her? So there's this back and forth. What do you think, Anna? Do you think it was she wanted to kill herself or a tragic accident?
So for my last year of school, we studied this question for our GCSEs. I am with you. I don't know herself. I think it was a horrible accident. I think she probably kind of some in. Don't think she thought she would have died. I don't think she meant to.
No, and her funeral was huge. All of the streets of London were lined with women and suffragettes. It was a really sad, and also, yeah, I absolutely don't think she would have too. But she didn't tell anyone that she was going to do it. And apparently her and her mother were really close, and her mother was ill. And if she was in a situation planning to kill herself, her close friends and family said she would have told her mom.
Accident. But yeah, I think the intention was not to die. But in some ways, I guess it shed more light on the suffragettes. I guess it gave them more publicity. So in some ways, she died doing a great thing for what she believed in, but at the same time, it's really sad.
Yeah, it's so sad, I know. And then perhaps we don't really have the option to present and write a speech, but we have this: present a rousing speech to fellow workers, inciting them to go on strike. What do you think about using these methods of strikes and protests to have this kind of result, your wages increase? Do you think it's effective, or what do you think?
I think nowadays, in the 21st century England, I think going on strike over wages doesn't seem to result in any positive. There was tube strikes in London last year for wage increases. I don't think they got wage increases.
No, so, I think they actually caused. Yeah. They ended up causing problems for the wrong groups of people. Those tube. Yeah, they caused problems for like the people commuters who were. Yeah, who perhaps like work by the hour, they're paid by the hour, and as a result of these protests, they weren't able to get to work on time, and so they lost money. It didn't affect the people who it probably needed to affect.
Yeah, I agree. And the people that pay their wage that have the power to increase their wages are these massive corporate companies, and for them it doesn't make a difference whether they strike or not.
Yeah,
but they're still not going to. So
I know.
I think I would say it's probably successful than it is successful.
I think a great way to kind of achieve anything is the kind of the power of the voices of many people, like exactly what Greta Thunberg is doing. She's like creating a ripple of discussion around the world, asking people to take part peacefully. And I think when you are able to influence public opinion like that, it puts pressure naturally on the institutions causing the problem.
Yeah, I agree.
And then maybe without it, because I think sometimes going on strike can create problems, but I could be wrong, for all the wrong people. What do you think, Janny? What's your opinion? But yeah, have you ever been on strike, Anna? Here we are. When a situation is not acceptable, I think that to go on strike can help in achieving your goal. Yeah, absolutely. It's true. That's what I think in this whole sense. I think this type of action is when it becomes totally desperate. We need more context for this situation. Is it a wage increase because you simply want it, or because you are entitled to it?
Yeah, or because you deserve it. If you're, working X amount of hours and you're only, Y amount.
If you were in school right now, would you partake in the school strike with Greta Thunberg?
Yeah, I think I probably would. And knowing my parents, they would probably encourage it.
Yeah, it's a great movement.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's really
good.
good. Yeah, to have younger people on it. It's the future, after all.
Yeah, for sure. I think politics and things like that should have way more younger people, just because people's, run the country and make decisions. There's a lot of good ideas out there. People.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever been involved in a strike. I don't think that anywhere I've been, because I think when we were at school there wasn't a school strike, maybe a bus strike. And so we had to walk to school, but I can't think of being involved in anything else.
I don't think we had any strikes or at university.
No,
yeah, I can't remember. No.
Yeah. What about these words here? Do you think you can apply these words to strikes nowadays? Maybe to the schools campaign. Can we apply these words to it?
I guess some people might find Greta Thunberg slightly like a political offender of her movement. It's taking kids out. I think it'd be a small minority. I would like to think anyway.
Yeah. I think definitely confrontational for sure. Like he's confronting she's trying to persuade each of the like the country's political governments to take action. It has to start from the top, indeed. And the public outcry, I think absolutely, like she's creating it because that's exactly what's necessary to put pressure.
Yeah.
And
people don't like it, but it's necessary.
Jenny, I was in strikes during the students' movement decades ago. Which was the students' movement? What was the reason for the strike? I don't think I have ever.
That's interesting.
And she's certainly not futile. She's a great little lady.
Not. She's a force to be reckoned with.
Exactly. And it's totally the opposite of militant. A peaceful protest.
Yeah. Very peaceful.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference, even just between this nowadays and the suffragettes 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, that there isn't the need for such radicalized actions at all. Okay, we have to go now, but that was good. So, yes, I hope you appreciate everything that the suffragettes did for us. Okay, bye. Bye, Anna. It was the famous
Bye.
day of 1960. I'll have a read of it, Jenny. Thanks. Bye.